Well, we're live, you know. Does that mean anything? I don't know. You know. But good morning. Uh, I have a story that was the first headline story, but I did that on the other video, so I want to talk about some of this other stuff before I get to that one. Um, there's a Russian ship, one of those so-called shadow fleet ships that was hit by drones. Nobody knows. I don't think anybody's really claiming it. It's Russian, and it was near Italy. I don't know whether it's still floating around near Italy. There's no crew on it. It's a ghost ship, basically. But it's a ticking time bomb because besides the oil that it has on it, which is an environmental problem, there's 60,000 tons of natural gas, I think. I think it's natural gas that it's stored on that ship. And that just makes it a ticking time bomb. If it gets near anything, you're going to have to try to sink it. And the sinking it is going to create an environmental hazard because of the oil. You know, in gas, if they sink it before and the gas is still in the hull, the gas will leak out and kill everything in the area. So it's really, really, really bad, 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 bad. So nobody knows what's going on there yet. It's still floating around. Nobody's coming near it or anything because it can, that natural gas goes off. There's going to be a hole in the water. You know what I mean? So I don't know what their plans are for that right now. There were some problems in the beginning as to who's going to take responsibility for it because it was near some other country too, Maldives, I think it was. It was near somebody else besides Italy. So I don't know. I hope they do because that's a big, big, big problem. Because it's got like 50,000 uh, tons or barrels of oil on it too, as well as 60,000 tons of natural gas. Now Trump wants to take Cuba. He says, casually, he says, "I can do whatever I want with Cuba." Well, it's a sovereign nation, has been for a long, long time. It's not a territory. He wants to make it a territory. He wants to turn it into another Puerto Rico, a country a place, even though they have thousands of, probably millions of Cubans thousands in Florida and millions around the country. There used to be a big Cuban population up in Dover, just north of where I lived in New Jersey. It was the second largest in the state, or the second largest outside of Cuba, or something like that. I forgot exactly. It was a second something. Anyhow, that's I don't know what they're going to do. Cubans are good people for the most part, but there also is a lot of bad ones because Castro, the last time he allowed boat people to come over, they called them when there was a lot. They were all criminals released from jail. So with the way Trump operates, he'll hire them all and put them in, let them work for ICE or something like that. But that's just Donald. Donald, what a waste. I just don't think I don't understand why we want it. I mean, other than the fact that the mob has always wanted it and always wanted it back. And Trump is sort of a mobster at heart. He operates the same way that the mafia does. Taking over places and selling all their assets and then dumping them and declaring bankruptcy. You know that. I mean, he did that with the casino industry. But turning it into another territory, similar to Rico, is you already have a failed infrastructure. And there's almost a total blackout in the country right now. The grid failed. So I don't know, by the time you're going to spend billions of dollars building the infrastructure up in this country, and then what are you going to do with it? If you don't turn it into a money-making proposition, it's not. It's a shame, but it just doesn't have any. I don't see it having any value. Other than natural resources, no. military value, quite possibly, or as a luxury, uh, or turning it into an Epstein type island, maybe. That's about it. All right, moving on again as we travel down the road. Trump is saying that Newsom, the governor of California, who's been considered a presidential candidate in 2028, can't be president because he has dyslexia. Well, first of all, that's um, if he can function as governor, he can function as president with dyslexia. It's not That's not an end of the world or world ending disease anymore. People understand it and they know how to deal with it. So that's not a huge gaffe in his resume, but it makes Trump look petty. Because I mean, let's face it, he's got dementia and he's still president. And we all know his mind is fried. It's really a shame when you got an ex heroin addict and an ex alcoholic in the cabinet, and they're actually probably in better physical shape than the moron that's the president, who's mentally going bye bye. You know. Uh, yeah, there'll be more on that part of his life later on, but you know, kind of stupid. Here's another horrible ICE story. An Afghan man who had served next to American troops in Afghanistan. And he was in the United States because it wasn't safe for him to be there in Afghanistan anymore because of what he did for the United States. And they brought him back, and he gets picked up by ICE. 24 hours later, he's dead. Apparently, I'm hoping it's natural causes, but you never know with these guys. Maybe Trump was doing a favor for one of the people in Afghanistan, by the way, who just got they're in a big fight with Pakistan. So that's another war that's going on in that part of the world. We're not involved in that, and if we have any sense, we'll stay out of it. But Pakistan does have nuclear weapons, and should they look like they're losing, I guess we're going to have to step in, because the one thing you don't want the Taliban to have is nuclear weapons. Things are bad enough with those people. That just seems to be another one of these interpretations of the Quran, a very strict and proper interpretation, supposedly. It's another one where somebody wrote this down hundreds of years ago. What do they call him? Allah, I think he's called. Or maybe that just means God. Well, anyhow, he wrote these down. He wrote things down, a lot of stuff similar to the Ten Commandments and whatnot, like that. And people interpret it differently. And you see them try to explain. I've seen them try to explain that on the FBI program, which is just not a really good show anymore. But I just keep waiting for the woman to what's her name? I forget her name. But the top female agent to get shot in the head or something. That's kind of like, just get rid of her, put somebody else in that need somebody else in there. But anyhow, I digress, like I always do. But we have a history of this. There are cities in the Midwest or Northwest, something like that, that are Vietnamese because we brought people back from Vietnam that had worked for us and worked with us, and that staying in Vietnam would have been proved to be very bad for the people that stayed. They got re-educated, some of them survived quite well, and after a while, I think they just don't care anymore. They're not an aggressive country. You never hear about them, but they've learned to work against us economically. Be a competitor on certain toys and stuff like that. So hey, you know, I can remember growing up. Uh, Everything was made in the Philippines. And they had all these nice little metal, really long-lasting metal toys that were made in the Philippines. Not anymore. Not even in China. Not even in Hong Kong. Vietnam, baby. Cambodia. All right, here was the story I started that I told you that was on the internet just before half hour ago, where and I did it, as my opening story when I did my other video, but it's not surprising, but a top official, the guy's name was, I can't get to it right now, but I had the guy's name. Let me see if I can do this real quick without losing everything. If I lose everything, I'm sorry. Can't help it. Joe Kent was the guy's name. And he was a top intel official in the White House, and he resigned. And the reason was, and I quote, "Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation," unquote. Now, I'm sure that showed up in a lot of intel documents and intel briefings. But if I'm right, and Trump is still not reading intel briefs that he gets every morning before his cabinet meeting starts, then I understand what's going on there. Because in his first term, it was shown that he doesn't read intel briefs. He passes them on to some chief of staff or somebody like that, next to him, and they read it and they, tell him what he supposedly they tell him what's in it. And I doubt if Trump would remember that conversation. That's the problem. See, so if they lied to him, Trump doesn't remember them lying to me. Doesn't know that it's a lie until it's too late, and then he doesn't remember anything about it. He likes to think he makes his own decisions, but he's not. There's people out there doing stuff for him, making decisions for him, and then handing him information, and he doesn't read it. So they have conversations, supposedly. I don't know, because I don't understand. Uh, I've never heard him quote an author. He doesn't even quote himself, in The Art of the Deal, or any of the other books that he wrote. So I'm not sure he wrote them. He might have dictated them to somebody. I don't know. Ghostwriter. But I'm sure. I don't think he wrote them himself. He probably did use ghostwriters. There's with a ghostwriter. There's two kinds of ghostwriters. You have if their name appears on the front page or the title, they're given credit for assisting in the book. They get paid, but they get a smaller check every month than the guy that keeps his mouth shut, and is a true ghostwriter who gets no credit whatsoever. I believe that's the way it works. It might be the opposite. I don't know. I wrote books. I wrote 6 books, but I didn't. They were just all so bad. It was just. But that's what self-publishing allows you to do, publish bad books. I didn't have any money for editorial work or anything like that, so people complained with no punctuation. And I said to them, I said, well, I don't talk with punctuation, so I don't know how to write with punctuation. I know punctuation. I just don't know how to write. When I'm writing fast. I'm writing like I'm talking right now. That's how fast I write, or I used to. I doubt if my hand can move that straight. Based upon the way my handwriting looks right now, I don't think I could do that anymore. And my typing is really bad, old hands. A lot of punching brick walls, you know. Uh, but that's another story. But I just I don't understand the situation, and it's another Iraq situation, and it's another destabilization of the area. And this time, the benefactor is going to be the Jews, who love it, this, you know, who want to take over everything, who want to eventually are going to go after Saudi Arabia, and that should be a great fight because Saudi Arabia's got pilots who are all trained in the U.S. at either the Air Force Academy or Navy's Top Gun School, or I forget the Air Force's top school. So that's Air Force doesn't. The most combat training goes to the Navy pilots because the Navy pilots usually don't. You don't hear about this, but there's a lot of aerial combat with those aircraft carriers when they're out at sea. They end up in having to chase planes away a lot, and sometimes they get and they try to see how good they are. You know, no medals are given. You don't know. You know, they listed as a crash or something like that if something bad happens. But anyhow, that's it. Look, it's also, I want to tell you something. I hope all of you get to see this and you're awake because I realize it's St. Patrick's Day. And, yeah, you know, most of my friends are already drunk as shit and talking to them just a waste of time, you know. But I'll give you this, all right? May your heart light and happy. May your smile be big and wide. And may your pockets always have coin or two in them. An Irish proverb. So everybody take care. Bye bye. Hit find a subscribe button and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, folks.